For more than half my life, I'm 35 years old, for more than half my life, my faith was my mother's faith. My mother was the spiritual leader in our household. My father was a military man and was an alcoholic pretty much for my whole upbringing up until I was about 19 or 20. So it was my mother who got the kids to church, and it was my mother who carried with her a sapling switch behind her purse so that when we were sitting in church misbehaving, she could easily reach out and tell us to calm down. And it's that sapling switch is the best metaphor for what my mother's faith was to me. As a very young child, I knew I was different, and I knew that when I was with the youth group, going out, I was much more comfortable sitting with the adults than playing with the kids. I wanted to be there talking about politics and business and adult things because I couldn't relate to my peers. I had no idea what the difference was. I was baptized at the age of 11 or 12, and almost simultaneous with my baptism, I began to realize what was making me so different. As I grew into puberty and began to develop attractions, I thought, something's very different about me. And when that realization came to me, I was repulsed by myself. I couldn't confide in anybody because I knew that if I did, I would be outcast. There was nobody to talk to because everyone around just was always, this is bad, and I joined that mantra. I was the kid who walked up and down in front of abortion clinics with the sign and who had all of the anti-gay buttons and everything. I was the perfect little boy in that sense. Until I hit about 15 and I realized that I couldn't go on this way and really struggled with thoughts of suicide. And wrote a letter to the wife of the youth minister, the only woman who I thought could relate. And that letter, and I wrote to her in confidence saying, I need to talk to somebody. I don't want to talk to my parents because I know that I'll get kicked out of my house. And instead of her reaching out to me, she sent that letter to my mom. I was devastated. And from that point on, I only went to church because I knew that if I didn't, my mother would be mad at me and it would make life hell. And between my dad's drinking and everything else, I was like, I'll just go just to make her happy. At 17, I got out of the house. I went to Europe as an exchange student and really never looked back. I did go to a Christian university. At that time, when I was at 18, when I decided where to go to university, I decided to go to Oklahoma Christian because I thought it would change me. I thought, if I can go and be with other adults, I'm going to meet a nice Christian girl, I can get married, and everything will be different. And I met a wonderful Christian girl, and we did get engaged, and I quickly realized that it wasn't going to change me. I was not going to be a different person. My senior year of university, I went to Japan, and I had a year of living by myself in a foreign country where I didn't really speak the language and a lot of introspection. And for the very first time, I left my mother's faith and I gained my own faith. And I read the Bible, and I read books, and I got to know God on my own level. And what God told me was that I was okay. And that He created me for something. But He created me in that image. I came back. I graduated from university. I was on my own, making my own money. I didn't need my parents. I was independent. I was at that point, I was speaking to my parents maybe once every 6 months. I was living my life without going to church. I had been repulsed by the organized religion. And I came out of the closet to myself. I fell in love. I was fired from my job. I moved to California. I found a new job. I started graduate school. I fell in love again, and I started going to church. And I attempted to go to churches of Christ because that's my history. That's what I knew. I thought certainly in California they're liberal enough out here, it's going to be okay. And although I went to Church of Christ where there were women leaders, which was, very foreign to me growing up, and there was musical instruments, which was very foreign to me, that still was not acceptable. So my faith became independent. And I reflect back, and now that I'm speaking to my parents more frequently, my mother always told me that there is no one between you and God. That faith is a personal journey, and faith is private. And her manifestation of that was in the Church of Christ, where there's no organized national structure, there's no concept of regional ministers or deacons or deans or priests or popes or anything. It's about edifying the personal faith. And so my response back to my mother is, you always told me growing up that the only thing that's keeping me from God and God from me is me. So my faith is no longer my mother's faith. My faith is my faith. But thank God I came out of the closet, because it was coming out and telling the world who I was that gave me my faith, because it was the only thing that was keeping me from God and keeping God from me. Thank you.